Hi, welcome to the group presentation for supervisors. We are going to talk about what it means to follow a path in the role of a child development supervisor. What is it that makes a great supervisor? There's obviously many different paths in the field of early childhood education that could get you to maybe the desire to be an adult supervisor or a director or an assistant director. But we're going to discuss some of the valuable traits that contribute to being an effective supervisor. What do you think it takes to be a great supervisor? So as a group, we explored what it really takes to reach that goal of being a director or an assistant director. What qualifications are required, but also what qualifications are very desirable in order to be an effective supervisor. So we're going to touch on education, training, as well as experience, and explore some of those areas because we find value in every one of them as you reach to attain that goal of supervisor. So the first thing that we're going to explore is the education requirement that is delineated by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And I think that we're probably all familiar with the permit matrix, and the way that it's laid out, I just want to identify how we would go about navigating where we fall within this matrix. And then on the next slide, we will talk about specifically that supervisor role and how it applies to us as students in this class. So the permit matrix, it reads very clearly, the permit title and the breakdown of those roles. We have the education requirements that are for each of those roles, down to the degree level that's required or how many units are required within child development. There's also the experience requirement and the ongoing professional growth hours. Of course, you can look at the alternative requirements if you don't fall clearly into one of those areas. But this gives us as students a really clear path to earning our permits. And it's really important that you have a clear understanding of how to navigate this permit matrix. So here is a copy of the permit matrix, and we have highlighted the site supervisor permit title. And I just want to point out that not only is there the option 1, which I'm sure many of us are working towards attaining, completing our AA degree, having a certain number of units in early childhood education, also having those administration units and some supervision units, but there are other avenues that somebody might work towards obtaining a site supervisor permit. So there's option 2, 3, and 4 in this category. So it's interesting to me that this is the first level of permit where there's clearly defined different paths that you can take to earning a site supervisor permit. Duly noted that those hours of professional growth are a key part of retaining the permit and something that you should always look towards building on. Those professional development hours are key in maintaining a handle on what it takes to supervise adults and facilitate an effective, growing childcare program. I want to share this quote from Benjamin Franklin because I really identify with what it says about learning. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Now, on my personal journey, training has played a huge role in where I have gotten in this field of early childhood education. Professional growth training opportunities that I have taken advantage of have really supported me being able to support the teachers that are delivering services to children. And a lot of the things that have played a huge role in my professional development is learning those tools for evaluation and coaching. You know, we use CLASS and ECHRS, and we use DRDPs, and some of us use other assessment tools. And the more I understand those tools, the better I can support teachers in not only delivering quality services to children and having a rich environment, but also having them understand, supporting their understanding of what they're looking for when they're assessing children. So for me, that really has played a very, very large part. I've also been able to participate in leadership training, and a lot of that leadership training incorporates adult learning styles and identifies the strengths in a leader. So it helps the leader to identify the strengths that are in their teaching staff. So I can't emphasize enough the role that training has played in my professional growth. And I value that training so much that I seek it out. And those professional growth hours, I look forward to enriching my experience as a leader, as a professional in early childhood education. It's something I can always build on, I can always add to. So training holds a really close place in my heart when it comes to working with the profession of early childhood education. So we've talked about the education requirement. We've talked about enhancing that education with training, a supplement of training. Now I want to talk about the experience. The experiences that we have as individuals that lead us down a path of leadership, that lead us to desiring a role to supervise teachers or a program are very significant. If you've spent time teaching, you know what it is to have that relationship with children. If you find the fulfillment in leading teachers to better themselves and showing them the path to making improvements in their teaching skills, then perhaps being a site supervisor, perhaps being a director or an assistant director or a program director is a perfect fit for you. There are some other things that are really important to consider. If you want to be an effective leader in the role at your school or in a program somewhere, you want to consider that it's important to have skills that are conducive to running a good program. You need to be able to juggle responsibilities. You need to be able to support a cooperative team spirit amongst your staff. You need to remain open to learning and growing, always looking for those opportunities to enhance their experience, your experience. You want to always be looking to bettering yourself. And you, as difficult as it may be sometimes, you want to let all of those biases slip away and have a really objective presence in your school. You want to be able to support people on an individual level. You want to also look for their strengths and their weaknesses and speak to the areas of personal growth or professional growth that they need. And that can be really challenging. You have to think outside of yourself. It's not about obtaining that role of a site supervisor. It's not about getting to be a director. It's about a passion to supporting the experience of your teachers, the experience of the students in those teachers' classrooms. It's about navigating around those issues that come up that are really challenging. It's about helping families. There's so many moving parts when you're working with a center that perhaps is serving 200 to 400 children, and those families and the teachers and the support staff, all of those people are going to be relying on you to facilitate um, their growth. And I think that that's really key. You have to consider that that role is a lot bigger than just you. Okay, so now that we have addressed what it takes to become a supervisor, to become an assistant director or a director, we're going to look at running and managing a program. What does it mean once you've gotten that job? What does it really look like? And these are three of the topics that we decided as a group were significant. Staff relationships, the environment, and then staff development. These are three key components. We're going to break it down a little bit in the next slides and talk about what that looks like. Okay, so we're going to talk about staff relationships. As a director or assistant director, our focus really needs to be on creating a strong team atmosphere. You need to be able to identify what it takes to be a great preschool teacher, because you are going to be employing these people. You are going to be supporting them in bettering themselves as teachers. But you also want them to have a sense of team, a sense of family, let's say. So developing that strong team atmosphere takes a really dedicated leader. It takes time and compassion to build those kinds of relationships in the workplace and to maintain them. The benefits, of course, are numerous. If you can really support a teaching team that works cooperatively and develops a sense of value amongst the group, that is going to really generate a sense of appreciation for each person's role. You know, everybody from the lead teacher to the chef, the cook in the kitchen, to the assistant director, to the support staff that's breaking teachers so that they can go on their lunch, all of those people play a really key role. So if you can really work to have that unity, then everybody's going to feel valued. And that's a necessary component. When people feel valued, they feel important, then their job can be very rewarding to them. And it doesn't really matter which piece of the puzzle they are. They're a key element. So the next piece is the environment. And I know that this can be a little bit abstract to consider. And many of you may be familiar with the idea of positive climate, but one of the resources that we found was this Child Trends website, which is linked in this slide, and I would encourage you to visit it, because what we found in this blog was a really great demonstration of how positive climate plays a role not only in that teacher-child and child-child relationship in the classroom, but what that translates to for the relationship between the teacher and the families and the teaching and support staff, like all of the relationships that are linked within the world of early childhood education. So any component that you can think about where you're relating to other people can reflect a positive climate, a sense of positive climate. And I really like how this Child Trends website lays it out. It's very clearly stated and gives great examples of how positive climate can support a growing childcare program and really enhance the experience for all the people involved. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to address is professional development. And I think that many of you might be familiar with professional learning communities or PLCs. And I really like this short video clip that kind of lays it out. What does a PLC look like? So I think when you have an opportunity to view this video that's linked from YouTube in this slide, it's going to give you an idea, if you're not familiar with the PLC, of what that, how that can look in your setting, whether it be a large center or a small childcare community. PLCs can benefit just about anybody. So one of the really important elements that I see as a site supervisor, an assistant director or a director, is really facilitating staff development. And we found this video on YouTube, and it gives a really great demonstration of how a teacher supportive group like a PLC can work. Now, in the video, the demonstration is really with a teacher group from an elementary ed standpoint, but I think considering some of the resources that we identify as available to support teachers in early education, a supervisor could really utilize this format and support their teaching staff to making improvements and create a sense of community and support amongst each other. If you watch through the video, it even shows the teachers being observed by peers and then evaluated by their peers and given feedback, so that reflective practice really offers an opportunity for growth in, on that individual level, but also an opportunity for the peers to watch other teachers in action and maybe identify with how they are delivering their teaching services in the classroom, where they might be able to make improvements. So of course, let's look at, in an early education setting, what kind of tools would we use as teachers or center directors or assistant directors? What would we look for as tools to support our teaching staff? I mean, we could look all to these resources that are on the slide, CPIN and West Ed, PITC, QPI, County Office of Education. Those are obviously professional avenues to find resources to support our professional growth. But you can also look at the tools that the teachers are comfortable with or have an understanding of, whether it be class or ECHRS. Maybe it is a standalone curriculum that you might use at your site. Perhaps it's something else. Maybe it's ASQs or DRDPs that you are really working to expand the teacher's knowledge and skill set on, and how it applies in their classroom, so that as a supervisor, you can use those tools and those teaching opportunities to support their professional growth, to really enrich their experience as a teacher and better their understanding of how their teaching supports the children in their classroom and how that reaches out to the families when they go home and how they can support one another in really growing and expanding their knowledge about the tools that they're using while they work. I mean, our goal really as supervisors is to keep our teachers not only, in ratio and all of those technical things that we have to have buzzing around in our minds while we're running a program, but we want to keep them inspired. We want to keep them, you know, fed. They need to desire to do their job in order for us to be successful. So any avenue in which we can do that, and I think you see a little bit of that in this video clip. So I would encourage you to watch it when you have an opportunity and then reflect on how it might apply in your early child care setting, whether it be infant, toddler, or preschool or pre-K, and how those teachers can be supported using staff development. I really feel as though that is a huge component of being an effective supervisor.